What's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazy Frankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 16 4 key game picks. Now, before we talk about week number 16, I just want to give you guys a little reminder for next week's video. Every year, whenever I do NFL videos, and especially towards the final week of the regular season, which next week is week 17, it's a special edition video that I always do. So next week's video may not necessarily mean there might be some 4 key games. A lot of it depends on what the playoff scenarios are. We talk about the playoff scenarios, and I give you my predictions and what happens in week number 17. So basically, that's what next week's video is going to be. It's a special edition video. A lot of it is just basically talking about the playoffs. Anyways, thoughts from week number 15. Now, obviously, a lot of questions went on after all the games in week 15. There was a couple questions that I had to keep in mind of a couple things here. Number one, what happened to the 49ers losing to the Falcons? After a big win in New Orleans 2 weeks ago, Atlanta comes in and they beat the 49ers in their own home field, basically taking away the number 1 seed. Now the Seahawks for the moment have the number 1 seed. And especially with the Seahawks after they really gave the Panthers such a beating last week. After losing to the Rams a week before that. So really a lot of different teams jockeying now for position in terms of playoff seedings in the NFL, and it's really getting a little bit interesting now. Especially with the Cowboys finally getting back on track and finally getting a win over a team with a winning record on the Rams. The Rams now in big time danger now, missing the playoffs now because their next game coming up against the 49ers is now more critical than ever. Packers barely survived the Bears after the Bears almost tied the game at the final seconds of the fourth quarter, nearly pulling off a miracle of the lateral passes, and really starting to wonder now with this Packer team. Even there hasn't been really a signature dominating win they've had all season, other than teams with the losing record. So really tough to say what's going on with the Packers here. Other things that went on in week number 15, obviously the Patriots, again, they were in the news. Obviously a lot of distractions of what happened with that video and all that. I've already had that small rant in last week's video saying that, look, I'm already convinced now that this franchise you can't trust this team anymore in terms of what they say and whenever any news comes out of there in terms of whether they're cheating or not. I've already made my point clear last week, is that they knew what was going on, and obviously you can't trust this team to say whatever they think. They expect us to believe. I'm not going to believe that. I'm not going to believe this anymore with the New England Patriots. I'm done with it. We know what they did. They're in the wrong. My only question is, what does the NFL do about it? I don't know, but the NFL needs... I don't know what Roger Goodell's going to do, but I'm not that confident in any sort of punishment, in all honesty. And, of course, one of the big things that happened in Week 15 was Drew Brees passing Peyton Manning's record for all-time touchdown passes, which, in all honesty, is not that much on the record right now. He's at 541 touchdown passes, with only Tom Brady not that far behind, who's still active in terms of playing quarterback. And I thought it was a little interesting in social media, or saying Tom Brady congratulating Drew Brees when he says, "I'm going to try hard. You're going to try breaking that record, but I'm going to try," and all that. I felt like Tom Brady was trolling him because he's only ahead by 3 touchdown passes. And who's to say that Tom Brady could pass that mark this weekend against the Bills? Obviously, there is a lot to talk about from Week 15, even though it's its own take, and I don't have that time to do it because we need to talk about week number 16, so let's get at it. All right, here are the 4 key games this week for week number 16, and these have plenty of playoff implications and playoff positioning. Let's begin with key game number 1, a big showdown here, the second meeting of the year in this AFC East battle here. The Buffalo Bills versus the New England Patriots. The Bills have already wrapped up a playoff spot after coming off an enormous big win against the Steelers. Now here comes the true test. Now, technically, they are still alive to win, to try and steal the AFC East division the way the Patriots have been playing. Who's to say that's possible? The Patriots have already beaten the Bills earlier in the season and currently hold the tiebreaker right now at the moment. Now, the Patriots are a 6.5-point favorite in this game here. And if the Patriots do beat the Bills here, the Patriots would end up winning the division, regardless of what happens record-wise. Now, Josh Allen in the big win last week over the Steelers, 13 of 25, 135 yards, one touchdown and one interception. Really tough to say here with Josh Allen and how that Buffalo offense will do. They did struggle against the Steelers. Now comes a big-time test when you have to face that Patriot defense again. And the Patriot defense in the first meeting did an excellent job of holding Josh Allen at bay and did knock him out of the game in that first meeting. Now, Tom Brady last week against the Bengals, 15 of 29, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Obviously, he's relying heavily so much on his defense rather than trying to get that offense going. This is going to be, again, like the first meeting. It is going to be low scoring, and it's going to be a defensive battle between both these two teams. Both these two teams' defense is evenly matched. The Bills' offense and the Patriot offense is, I would have to say, is also evenly matched. Even though the Bills' offense, I may give them a slight advantage here because Patriots' special teams in terms of their kicking game and trying to make field goals is still a huge question. Really tough pick here, even though the odds makers have the Patriots as a heavy favorite in this game. But I'm still going to pick the New England Patriots here. I think the Patriots will wrap up the division right here. They will beat the Bills here, but expect this game to be close in Foxborough all the way for 4 quarters. I think it's going to be a good game here. I think that Buffalo defense is going to cause problems for Tom Brady, especially the fact that he has had to work with very limited, talented receivers. And it is going to be really a defensive battle between both these two teams. It should be a good one in Foxborough, but I think the Patriots will pull it out here. They'll wrap up the AFC East. I like the Patriots in this one here, Patriots over the Bills. Key game number 2, the Rams versus the 49ers. The 49ers have already clinched the playoff berth, so they'll either win the division or they'll end up as a wild card. The 49ers are a 6.5-point favorite in this one, and that is just about right. The Rams' playoff hopes now are in deep trouble. Pretty much I would say that if the Rams were to lose this game against the 49ers, the Rams will be pretty much officially eliminated because that all depends on the Vikings. The current scenario for the Rams is that they have to win this game, win their Week 17 game, and they got to hope that Minnesota loses out both their games between the Packers and their final game in Week 17. So it's really a big uphill battle for this Rams team. They had to claw their way back to a playoff positioning right now. But when you're facing a 49ers team with a very good defense, and in the first meeting, that 49er defense just made Goff sit on the ground the entire game. Goff, 33 of 51, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception last week against the Cowboys. Not good stats at all. And Garoppolo, after losing to the Falcons here, 22 of 34, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. San Francisco's defense, really is enough for me to pick them. I like the 49ers in this game. I think the Rams have to play really desperately here, but when you got a 49er team with a defense that is that good, now I know last week they hit a speed bump with that Falcon team and basically let them win. Basically, the Falcons beat them in the end. Tough to really say what comes out of here in this game. But I still think the 49ers win here. It's going to be probably more or less like the Bills and Patriots. It'll be a defensive battle. I think it's going to be low scoring as well. But I'm picking the 49ers here. The Rams are going to play desperate here, but I don't think they have enough to really give some problems and some defensive problems with the 49ers here. I like the 49ers in this game. I think the Rams are done. They're done with their playoff hopes. I don't see them. They need big time help from a lot of teams, and I just don't see it happening here. I like the 49ers in this one here. 49ers over the Rams. Key game number 3, the second meeting between these two teams, and this is ultimately more than likely going to decide who is going to win the NFC East. It is the Dallas Cowboys versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Currently, right now, the Dallas Cowboys are a 1-point favorite in this game, and it would not be surprising towards game time that the lines would be that the odds will be fully even. It'll be you pick 'em. It wouldn't surprise me if that happens at kickoff, or whatever, or if somehow odd makers could, by some miracle, make the Eagles the favorite here. But Cowboys currently are the favorite, and I'm sticking with that. Now, Prescott, 15 of 23 last week over the his stats here against the Rams, 15 of 23, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Carson Wentz had a come from behind victory against the Redskins, 30 of 43, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. This boils down to the point here: which team does not turn the ball over, who could run the ball more effectively, and who will definitely get the points in the end zone. This is really a tough pick here. The Cowboys, we don't know what we're getting with this team. Same thing with the Eagles. They both really, in a division that's terrible, the only way one of these two teams will get into the postseason is through the division. If the Cowboys play like they did with the Rams, all it takes is Ezekiel Elliott getting going here. But now there's questions rolling around whether how Dak Prescott's thumb is. Does he have a hairline fracture in his thumb? From what the NFL on Fox broadcast happened last week during that game against the Rams, that is some big time speculation now. Now the Cowboys, talent-wise, they're technically a bit better than the Eagles here. But the Eagles are smelling blood here. And I have a sense here in this game here, both these two teams are teams in jeopardy. Whoever loses this game pretty much is out of it. Now the Cowboys, if they win this game, they win the division because they beat the Eagles in the first meeting, and they technically own the tiebreaker. For the Eagles right now, even though if they win, they still have to win their Week 17 game and hope the Cowboys lose in order to win that division. Who do I have in this game? I'm actually going to pick the Philadelphia Eagles here. I think, to me, with the home field, I think the home field advantage is going to play a big role in this game here. And knowing the rivalry between these two teams, especially in Philadelphia, it is enormous hatred for the Cowboys in that city, in that stadium. So it would not surprise me. This game is going to be close. I expect this game to be close for 4 quarters. I'm going to go out on the upset here. I think the Eagles are going to beat the Cowboys here. I think they learned their lesson from the first meeting. Even though Eagles are working with limited talent right now. But I somehow see the upset coming here. The Cowboys right now, we don't know what we're getting with this team. 1 minute they're playing good, and then they're losing to a bad team. It is tough to say what's going on. And now that Dak Prescott's thumb is a question, that might be enough for me to say, you know what? I like the Eagles in this game. I think the Eagles will win in a very, very close, low-scoring game. I think, to me, that the defenses have to come up big for both these two teams here, and whose offense does not turn the ball over, and that's going to be key. I'm actually going with the Eagles here. I think they'll beat the Cowboys here. This is not a sure pick here. It's really, really tough to say who wins this game here, but I'm picking the Eagles on an upset here. I think the Eagles will beat the Cowboys here. Should be a good one to decide the NFC East division here. I like the Eagles in this one here. Eagles over the Cowboys. And finally, key game number 4. NFC North showdown, the Green Bay Packers versus the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are a 4.5-point favorite in this one. That number should be a little bit more lower. It all comes down to this now for both these two teams. Now, the Packers have already beaten the Vikings in the first meeting in Lambeau Field earlier in the season. Now, here comes the true test for this Packer team against a Minnesota Viking team that has not lost in Minnesota all season long. This could be the game that could be perfect at home. They've won 7 home games. Now the question is, can they sweep at home, win all their 8 home games this year on Monday Night Football? Now, Rodgers, 16 of 33, 203 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions in that big win against the Bears last week. The Vikings humiliated the Chargers last week. Cousins going 19 of 25, 207 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception here. Defense-wise, both these teams are evenly matched in terms of defense. Offense-wise, I'd have to say they're evenly matched too. The odds makers doesn't say that this is a very, very like a 2-point or 1-point spread, but I personally think this should be a 1-point or 2-point favorite for Minnesota here, because these two teams are evenly matched. And it's gonna, now the question remains here, who's not gonna turn the ball over? Time of possession is gonna be key in this game. Can Minnesota's running game? Now remember, the Vikings took a big hit last week with Dalvin Cook. His shoulder, he injured his shoulder against the Chargers. So now the Vikings are down one weapon, and now it's going to be interesting to see what Kirk Cousins can do with that limited offense now. Now the Packers wise, if the Packers can get to Kirk Cousins in this game, I think the Packers win this game here. But the Vikings have come alive big time in these last few weeks. Even though they lost to the Seahawks a few weeks ago, but they have come back and really are making a statement here. And this is the game I can see the Vikings making a statement here. I'm actually going to pick the Minnesota Vikings in this game here. I think the Vikings have been perfect at home. They got their home crowd behind them, and I can see them winning this game here. I think the Vikings defense will get to Aaron Rodgers in this one. I think the Vikings will learn from their first meeting. They'll learn their mistakes here, and they'll get to Rodgers. And I still think the Packers have too much vulnerability here. I like the Vikings in this game. I think the Vikings will get the win here. It's going to be a close game all the way. I'm going to pick the Vikings here. Vikings over the Packers. All right, everybody. That wraps up my 4 key game picks for Week 16. As I said earlier in the video, next week is my Week 17 special edition video, so make sure you check that out. And until then, everybody, I will see you all next week. Until then, take care and enjoy your football weekend.